you, the Messiah. No offense, Perdre, but that has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Why not me?
Have you met yourself? Perdre, you drink, you fight, you like to break people's arms just to hear the sounds they make.
Ooh, and who doesn't like the sound of that? Who doesn't like the sound of this? This is Preacher versus Preacher. It's a comparison companion podcast where each week we get together, we not only recap AMC's series Preacher, but we compare it to the 1990s comic it's based on by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. Who are we? I'm Bill Sweeney, and I bring some friends this week. My buddy Dom, as usual.
What's up, Pilgrims? Welcome back.
And then special guest from all the way from our sister show, the DCTV Report, the wonderful, the one, the only, Dr. Sara Netzley.
Hello, everybody. Hey.
Hey, what's going on, lady?
Hey.
How you doing? Yeah, so she hosts that show with our friend, our buddy from the Wicked Theory podcast.
Who's that guy?
Edward O'Hare.
That's right.
And he snuck in too, but we have a standing rule here on this podcast, that
we have rules?
Well, we have one, really,
Okay.
and it's that, like, well, the idea is that in the conception was that we weren't going to have people on here who hadn't read the books.
That's right.
Or at least, ideally read
At
them
least
all.
not throwing them across the room the first time they read them.
Right. But Ed, because he's a friend, I guess, and wanted something to do.
I just want to hang with my buddy.
All right, but you can't be on mic.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing with you.
Yeah, if you hear a faint voice in the background, it's not Bob.
Right. It's not. And so that's that. That's how we're gonna do it. That's how we're gonna do it. You did say, hey, I'll just hang out, be off to the side, and now here I am. I've sprung this on you. Tough. Rules are rules. Sarah, are you okay with this? Am I being too harsh?
Wait, I'm sorry. Is this is my chance to tell Ed? Shh.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
this is great. Let's do this.
all right. Perfect. Sarah's like, it's my time to shine, jerk. So let's get back into it real quick. Get some official business out of the way. Like I said, you can hear us on the Wicked Theory podcast. You can hear Sarah on the DCTV Report. That DCTV Report drops every Sunday. Sarah and Ed, they recap all the live-action DCTV shows, and they bring you all kinds of scoop and coverage and news about those shows, what's coming next, and the list of shows they recap is growing and growing and growing, because the DCTV train does not seem to be stopping. They keep adding another caboose for some reason.
And
I guess.
I may,
Yes.
right now we're doing some retro picks and are going through Batman the Animated Series. Ed is picking, I think, the best of that. He has seen the show before. I have not seen the episodes before. So I think it's a fun way to do some summer watching when there's not much TV going on, and you can watch an episode with us a week and listen to me freak out about how good it was, and Ed just be like, yes,
I'm so right.
Yes.
I'm so right about this. This is a fantastic episode. It's a little bit of that. But I'll tell you one thing. You guys did make me want to go back and watch the episode you guys did just on this past episode, The Gray Ghost. Be beware of the Gray Ghost. I did cue you and let you speak that time. And because I forgot about it. So it's on my list of things I want to get to this week, because I want to see if it's just as sentimental at its moments, without getting into it, that you guys proclaim it to be. And I'm at an age now where I'm more prone to crying sometimes or getting misty-eyed. So
I was a soggy mess. It was the first time watching it for me, and I was just like,
well, not to be a chauvinist pig, but you're a Goyle. Goyles are definitely more in touch with their emotions.
If I'm at a 7 or a 3 on that scale, 10 being happy, 1 being sad. If I'm somewhere between, below a 3 or above a 7, I'm probably in tears. So that's fair.
I'm no good at math.
That's fair.
I know people think it's a bit.
Okay, so take the square root.
Oh shit! Don't. That'll make me cry. Now you're trying to make me cry. So, people, please, if you're looking for more entertainment as your season continue, if you're into those shows, any of those shows, Flash, Arrow, all that stuff, you should be checking out the DCTV Report. Ed and Sarah are your guides through the multiverse that is the DC universe.
We don't do math on our show.
There you go. See, another reason to love them. Actually, much like the Wicked Theory podcast, it's basically no math, no sports, no politics, right? There you go.
Yeah.
So, but Sarah's on Twitter at Sara Netzley, Saranetzley.
Yeah, good job.
Without even looking at it.
Yeah, dang.
Damn, I've been knowing you for a while.
Congrats, Bill.
Thank you. I'll get it. Do I get a bell?
No.
Okay, fine. I got the bell over here, by the way, Dom.
There,
I'm gonna
that's
put.
my own personal.
Speaking of the bell, Dom is on bell duty
Oh shit.
because the bell is something that we do here when we find an actual direct usage of the books. Because that's what we do here. It's a comparison companion. Let's get back into it. Let's get on the road here. That's the gist of this podcast, right? We do a recap. You kids know what we're doing. Send us emails to pvp@wickedtheory.com. This show is at Preach vs. Preach on Twitter. Dom is at Dom_Torre, T-O-R-R-E. I'm at Wicked Theory. Ed, if anybody cares, is at Edward O'Hare, TBD. Or the shadow knows, I think, is what he might change it to. He's actually trying to hold his laughter in, which I commend him on. I told him he can laugh. I told him an audience of one is not bad, right? Okay. Maybe I'll just give you a signal when I want one. That might work better.
Kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think?
Yeah. So, Sarah, I do want to thank you for your grandma story, which you sent in earlier this season.
Was I one of the two?
Yeah, one of the brave souls shared something about their grandma.
Now, I did hold a slight grandma story back.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get to that point, I do have another one to offer, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So,
And with that, I think we're going to start heading into it. Like I said, it's Spoilerville from here on. We hope you've read all the books because we're just going to jump into it. It's the season finale. And I guess before we get maybe too far, too fast, just briefly, Sarah, overall, what did you think? Did you like it? How'd you feel about it? The season finale for Preacher.
I loved the whole season, and I thought the finale was great.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Good night, folks.
I said brief. Go on, I'm sorry.
No. I didn't think it was perfect. I felt like some things were a little rushed, and I was a little disappointed in this or that execution. But I think if I didn't have the book in my head, I would have been super, super thrilled. And as it was, I was really thrilled. I thought there were some great set pieces. We got to see Hoover in black lipstick. It was I was pleased.
Fair enough. How about you, D?
Yeah, I actually agree 100% with Sarah. I liked it. I think the season was much better in comparison to the first two.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely stuck more to the book in this season than they have in the past, which you guys know makes me very happy.
Boy, do I.
But like Sarah said, there were a few execution things that didn't really work out for me. But that's mainly me just being a book snob with this particular one. And just also, like Sarah said, the timing of the season and some of the storylines felt rushed in certain spots and dragged out in other spots, and I felt like they didn't execute those things the way I would like, and I'll get more into that later.
We'll get all into that. And
I'm curious if we're complaining about the same aspects.
Probably.
I bet we
It probably will be. It probably will be.
Yeah, there'll be some overlapping of this diagram.
I hope so.
Yeah, and for me, not even to get into it, because you guys were saying stuff that's very much, I'm in the same wheelhouse.
Right.
Liked it overall.
Yeah.
Nothing made me hate it.
Correct.
Any of the changes and stuff like that. So I was good with it. Like, you know what I mean? And I actually had a bunch of fun. So
yeah, that's the one big takeaway from season 3 is that it was just a much more fun show overall.
Yeah, it wasn't,
past.
and it was fun on its own without, like, sometimes the campy or the zany can feel like a little forced.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Or a little, maybe slightly out of place a little bit. And so that's why I feel like the fun was different here.
It was a good balance.
Yeah. All right, so let's just get it right into it. Sarah, are you ready? Are you strapped in, or any last minutes?
Strapped. Let's do this.
She's got a
Get
gun.
the strap.
She's got a gun. or a belt, and she's going to whip somebody.
Hashtag get the strap.
Hashtag get the strap. All right, so what was the name of this one? Into the Light?
Yep.
I think?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Because I don't have it written down right in front of me. I know something about the lights. Above the light. I didn't point to you. I told you, raise your hand if you're going to talk. Thank you, Sarah. His hand's up. You in the back?
It's above the light.
Thank you. Above the light this episode. From my memory, I got that. No help. So we'll play like that. Ed's crying. Okay, so we start this one out with young Jesse, and he's in his room, And basically, right before he leaves, he's like praying and stuff like that, or getting ready for the day. He puts on his T-shirt. We see that he's got the back tattoo, even at that age, of the Angelville kind of symbol.
Yep.
And as he leaves the room, start his day, basically, we see that like God sitting there, which was an odd thing. But he goes downstairs, talks to Grandma, basically tells her, like, I want to go to Texas. And she's like, basically, why? It's to visit Tulip. We find out, he doesn't drop her name at all, but they get into this quick thing where he's like, you killed my family and stuff like that. And more or less, she walks off, you're afraid of hell is her problem. We'll come back through it. Then we just burn it out. You know what I mean? So we go to, after that, we kind of flash to later in the night. He's drinking by himself in the kitchen. It's a very moody scene, and Satan is sitting there.
Right. Now, I thought this was great symbolism.
Yeah, I was just wanting to get to that, right to there, and then we can, go for it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great usage of symbolism because I didn't really understand. I was kind of confused as to why God was in the room when he was praying.
Right.
But now once we see the devil was present in the room when he was thinking about killing his grandma and doing something evil, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That God was there when he was praying,
right,
and Satan was there when he was about to commit an evil act.
Yeah, it's loose enough for either metaphor or to be taken literally. Sarah?
It's the Tom and the Brady.
Correct.
Right. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's both sides. And at least, whether or not they were literally watching or it's supposed to be more figurative, they don't really get back to it. So I just take it as figurative, right?
It would have to be figurative because, and I thought this through, you had the actor God was the one watching young Jesse. Well, we saw actor God got killed before in season 1, so he could be actor God in heaven, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's I assume you can play fast and loose with time if you're God.
Right.
But we saw him die like a year ago. Mm-hmm. So I actually wondered that was that manifestation of God traveling through Jesse's past to, and then I realized I was thinking too hard for a show where Hitler, where Tulip fight's not
for this show. So. Because let me tell you, while you were saying that, I went even deeper, and I was like, well, if it's God magic, he knows all. So yes, he would know that guy, and he's just a fan of his look. Even back
Maybe
then,
he made that guy in his image.
Yeah, and time doesn't work for God like it does for us. He's a non-linear existence, maybe. He sees both directions.
Correct.
So yeah, I think I'm sure that's the way they worked it out in the writers' room. But so then to see Satan there was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And it's basically like it's coming. So he wanders into Grandma's room with this bat, and he's ready to bat her down while she sleeps. And the clock chimes, wakes her up, and she's scary still. Even
now, let me ask you a question.
No matter what with that lady.
Sarah and Bill, let me ask you a question. You would think that Grandma would have a bedroom in Angelville, but she's always fucking sleeping on the couch.
Yeah,
I don't fucking get it.
Well, I could say like ladies of a certain age, when there's certain things you stop giving a shit about at a certain point.
Maybe her contract with Satan forbids her from sleeping on a bed because that's.
I'm just saying, my mom did a lot of napping. And I could see my mom being like, fuck it. I'm not, why do I got to go all the way upstairs for? It probably is a pain in the ass.
I can go a step farther and say a lady of a certain age of my acquaintance actually got rid of her bed and just slept in her recliner because that was the most comfortable for her particular lady of a certain age body needs.
There you go.
So,
yeah. And I just figure for her, maybe now the more I think about it, like, she's got the wheelchair, the bag, all that stuff going on.
Right.
TC, sometimes at night when she wants to go upstairs, who knows what he's out doing.
Right. Well, they
getting a hold of him, past like 10 o'clock. You don't want to go looking.
No.
Ed's shaking his head vehemently at that idea.
I guess they couldn't afford one of those chairs that like reclines up the staircase.
It's like me.
Yeah, it's like a remote controlled seat that goes up the staircase. I guess they couldn't afford one of those in Angel.
Yeah. And TC the whole time, step by step, I could carry you. It's all right, Miss Langell. All right, so basically he's gonna bat her down, and she wakes up, and she hits him with the old "What would your daddy say?" kind of thing, and he can't do it. He screams, drops the bat, basically in frustration. So he's like, "Well, I'm leaving. I'm going. Screw it." Jump to the next morning, or it's later whatever, sun's coming up or going down, something. He's going out, taking that long road out of the property, and as he's going, they do this cool thing where they cut to present day in frame, and it's like the two of them passing each other as he's going and the other one's coming, and they do a high five and a secret handshake, a do-si-do, a curtsy, and they put their right foot in, shake it all around, right? No?
They bow to their corner. They bow to their partner.
Right. It's been a long time since I did any of that stuff, so. No, but I couldn't remember the dialogue, so I got silly right there. Ed in the back is raising his hand. What was that?
Ed seems to know the dialogue.
Okay, continue. We'll allow it.
Well, old Jesse says, you should have killed her the first time.
Right.
And young Jesse says, well, now's your chance.
Oh, I remember now. Young Jesse said, old Jesse says, you should have killed her. And then young Jesse says, well, now's your chance. Right? Isn't that how? Yeah.
Correct. I
Just
believe
Great
that's how it
memory,
went.
Bill.
It just
Great
came.
memory.
It just came to me.
Yeah.
So that was a cool thing, which they repeat later on, which is a nice little thing. Those two actually finally got to act together.
Yeah.
And that's where the intro comes in, basically. I think, if I remember correctly, we get the logo slamming down, some harmonica, and a commercial. Then when we come back, Jesse basically is arriving. He sees TC. It's the scene with the shotgun. He takes it from him, and then when he gives it back to him, he hits him with the word and tells him to shoot himself. He shoots himself in the foot. But I
felt like Jesse needed to be a little more precise about that. Like, that could have gone really differently for TC.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Lucky of TC that he had it facing down.
Right.
I guess just that was good enough for the instinct.
Right. Although, if this show were to do anything crazier, it would be fucking amazing if there was like an Arseface 2 and it was Jody. That would just be great.
Oh my God, the two of them.
Like Arseface buddies.
I'm not. I don't want to get
Jody and Eugene.
I don't want to get.
TC.
I don't want to get X-rated, but it's probably good that Jody never met Arseface.
TC, you mean?
Jody or
TC,
TC?
TC rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I said Jody, and
Yeah,
I confuzzled you.
Is that it? Wasn't me? Because
No.
I could have sworn it was me. But yeah, Ed doesn't like that idea either. I'm just saying. I didn't mean to put an image in anybody's head, but
You did. It's too late.
okay.
It's there.
This is an adult show, right? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I overshared. I had a thought and I overshared.
It's all right.
This is definitely not a typical episode of this podcast. Just gonna say that. So yeah, so he shoots himself in the foot, and then Jody's in the hallway. It gets tense for a second, and then we get a scene where he puts down the case, and it's like, I'm not going to use the word on you, which follows the book pretty much.
He uses the word to tell him to put down the case.
Well, put down a case,
Right.
right? And then it's like, okay, that's the context of Jody then being able to say, are you going to use?
Does he say it? I think he only said it.
He intones it. It's like, are we going to go? Is it going to go down like this? Something like that.
Okay.
And he's like, no, I don't
Meet
have-
me in the tombs.
Yeah, meet me in the
To the
tombs.
tombs.
Right.
Let's go to the tombs.
To the tombs.
To the tombs. We jump to the bus, and it's the Angel of Death and the Saint of Killers facing off with the Nazis. This is a whole thing, Really, they're really going for it with the Nazis. How do you feel about Nazis, Sarah? Just so some clarification, you pro or for or against?
I am anti-Nazi.
All right.
It's a
Good
hot
for you.
take,
Good for you.
and I
Good for you.
realize people might debate me on this, but
Yeah.
I am anti-Nazi.
Okay. All right. Good.
And I super loved the Angel of Death fact-checking them. Well,
That was
actually,
great.
Yeah, because his medals were Luftwaffe. Which, that even still, I don't even know if that's correct. Maybe
sure it
she's
is.
wrong. But yeah, so basically these Nazi dudes, these wannabe ragtag Nazi dudes are there, and they've got a tank. But the fight breaks out inside the bus. All the fighting inside the bus was pretty fun and cool. It starts out with Assface. I call him Assface more than his real name is
You do.
Arseface. Okay, so Arseface versus Hitler, mostly, right there in the beginning. But it's a big overall bus rumble. At one point, he's like, I thought you changed. And he's like, I have the soul patch. So So that's about it. Basically, is what that means for Hitler. That's about all the growing he's gonna do. Is a touch more facial hair. So basically, they have like this kind of thing where like then our face is pinned, has him pinned, and he's like, "What would Jesus do to our face?" When, and in my head, and I think even in anybody's, it was like, I think Jesus would punch you or even stab you right now.
And he did.
Yeah, so he at least knocked him out. Gave him a cold cock
Right.
Across the face.
Listen, if Captain America punches Hitler, I feel like that's the closest approximation we'll have to what would Jesus do.
That's correct.
All right,
Cap did it. Good enough.
Captain R's face. I think it works. I think we can Photoshop that. Someone can Photoshop some of that around. He's got like dirty blonde hair. It'll work.
Yeah.
Okay. He's got a nice. What's left of it's kind of a square jaw. Okay. So with that, Tulip and R's face, they try to make a run, but the Angel of Death stops them, and the Saint of Killers, while he's underneath the tank. The Saint of Killers, one of the things to note is that he's got heat breath.
Yeah, what was that?
He's got...
Sarah, can you explain this to me?
Well, when a man is very, very evil, it lights a fire in his belly. No, I cannot. I assume it's some hell power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or he has super bad breath. I don't know. It's one of those two things.
I would buy that more. That it was just because, in the Old West, no one really took care of their teeth very well.
And he hasn't brushed his teeth since like 1860.
That's what I mean.
Right.
And even then, it was sketchy at best.
Right.
Yeah. And when you're caught in a hell loop, that takes up time.
I think so.
You don't have time to floss.
No.
That's not a thing.
Not a man like him. He's on a mission. I don't have time to floss. All right. So with that, kind of what happens is that the AOD stops them. Saint of Killers does this thing with the heat breath. And as the tank, though, while he's underneath it, shoots a shell.
Right. Now, there was a Nazi inside, I assume.
Yeah.
That shot off
there must have been one less guy in there. So, but everything stops on a dime. The shell is frozen in midair, much like Star Wars. I thought Kylo Ren might pop up at any second, and had been freezing, holding it there with his Jedi mind tricks.
Would he have been shirtless with the pants up to his nipples? Because that's how he's the most terrifying.
But here it would have worked. This is a show where you can do that.
Yeah.
In the middle of Star Wars, it's just awkward. Just nobody with the costumes off on in that series, please. But yeah, so God stops everything, which was really cool effect, which was really sweet, and it was something to kind of like pull you out of it for a second. So, he is a merciful God after all.
He said it a bunch of times.
Yeah, he likes to let you know.
Yeah, the more he says it, the less believable it is.
But I think that's consistent with what we know of God from the Bible.
Yeah.
He's constantly telling you how nice he is while he's taking your children or causing a flood. I'm merciful. Imagine what I could do if I was angry. Here's a flood. Remember me. Thanks, guy. Ed's confused.
This has been the Old Testament with Bill Sweeney.
I'm just going to break it down for people. If they don't like it, they can send an email. So with that, we jump to Cassidy. And it's all the vampires are upstairs, just kind of hanging out for the first time on the first floor. Like, oh, okay. Very solemn, very quiet. I thought they were up to something. And it turns out they were. But they're going to make one last attempt. Chris E. Icarius. He's going to make one last attempt to try to convert, this scamp of an Irishman over to his side. Even buys him a nice unicorn pipe because it's like something that he always wanted. Right. So it's a sweet little like, look, come on, I got a trinket for you. You should forgive me for all the shit I've done now. Yeah, typical man. You just want to say that.
You put your drugs on this side?
Right, he gave him a breakdown like Cassidy doesn't know how to use a fucking pipe.
Right.
Cassidy's like, I could build you one out of a sneaker. Stop it. Which is cute. So they have a brief exchange. Sarah, by the way, I know I'm burning through these things, and you might have notes, so just jump at me whenever you want me to stop on something I might have jumped off of. So, in particular, you know what I mean?
No,
Cassidy,
keep doing you.
Oh, well.
In that case,
we go up to Tulip. And it's her and God having this thing, having this conversation, which we kind of knew we were gonna get like one more appearance of God, you know what I mean? And he wasn't done with her yet. Little ding of the bell. I heard it. But he's like, I'll bless your name, I'll fix your name or whatever. He's offering her if you just tell Jesse to back off.
Right.
Which is what we're dinging the bell for, because that's his one thing in the books around this time that he's telling her when he sees her.
Yeah.
Just get this guy off my ass, basically. He doesn't need all that. But Tulip balks. She doesn't buy his whole. And even when he's like, oh, well, Cassidy's in danger too, she doesn't buy it at first. And in the end, he basically unfreezes time, which causes the whole explosion to finish.
Mm-hmm. But it gives Arseface enough time to back off and get out of the way of the missile.
Right. So with that, the Saint of Killers now goes for the Angel of Death, Sydney, as she's also known. And he's had enough of her, like the goading that she's been doing to him, where she's just been asking him over and over, do you think the crows took out her eyes? Like, your daughter's eyes? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think, she's a little mean. I think she's a little antagonistic.
Well, I mean, she spent a lot of time in hell, so.
I mean, I guess so. I guess if you're staff down there, it's kind of like the prerequisite. You have to be an asshole.
That's actually how you say hello in hell.
Right. You remind somebody of their misery. Right. Hey, how's that dead wife doing? I got you. I see what you're saying.
Right.
Have you been thinking about your kid lately? How dead she is? All right, that works. That's hellish. Then they shake and they go make copies together down the hall.
But the copier always jams.
It's always jammed, and there's never any ink. You have to use your own blood or something, probably. Everything's in red, so it's hard to read. So basically, God will do all this stuff for her. They give it up. There's an explosion. He takes out her eyes. Santa Killers and Arseface stand up. Let's go on the road.
They boogie.
Let's get this thing going.
Right.
And then we jump right to the tombs for a little bit of Jesse and Jody getting down.
Yep.
With the beatdowns. And these kids go at it for like a good portion of the rest of the episode as we cut back and forth.
Right.
But in this first sequence, in this first part, we get something from the books, Dom. Are you ready for the bell? We get that 2x4 with the nails in his face, which is...
Was that a bell for each nail that goes into his face?
That's
there
exactly
you go.
Correct.
There you go. And that's book consistent. 2 nails.
Right. And hey, he actually says what he says in the comic.
Yeah.
He says, I think it's
that
was different.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And looks at it weird.
Yeah.
Which was great. Which was, with one of those little gems
Right.
of a key thing in a book that's just like in the moment when you originally read it, it's like, wow, it's kind of nutty.
Yeah.
Much you have the same reaction basically when you read that as he says it. Well, that's different. But so that was a fun moment. But we jump out of that. Well, basically, that's my main takeaway in my notes. It's just basically 2x4 in bold with exclamation points.
Well, and I think the filming did a nice job of highlighting that physical difference between those two.
Yeah.
Jody's a big guy, and it's easy to forget that, I think. And when you put him next to Jesse, they did scenes and shots in such a way that it's just like, oh, yep, that's Jesse looks really overmatched there.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that kind of like, if you wanted to get like all Fight Club about it, Fight Club ESPN analysis is like, well, Jody's a little bit older, so that works in the favor to a degree.
Will his experience outweigh his potential fatigue that comes on? I don't know, Cotton.
Well, it is like the most. It is. Well, I'll say this: it is the most messed up kind of like master pupil. You have learned, grasshopper. Like now
Right.
you are done with your training sequence.
Right.
I don't think Yoda was ever going to get a 2x4 in the head with a couple nails in it. But hey, maybe that's what it needed. So with that, we jump back to Cassidy, and at this point now. Icarius has let him down off the pool table.
Correct.
And they're chatting it up. And he's basically like, look, man, like, I don't want your fucking squirrel blood. Let's get right back into it. You don't have to soft roll me into getting back in the groove. Let's just jump on into it, as Phil DeFranco likes to say. But Daddy's like, yeah, let's do a blood ceremony. Old time's sake. Let's set it up. We got all these people upstairs. With that, we jump to Jesse and Jody. They're still fighting because that's what they do.
Yep.
And the lighter pops out of his pocket.
Right. I've been looking for this, Jody says.
That's right. Lighter pops out of his pocket. They do that little beat for a second, and then this whole thing with the chain.
Yes.
What were you thinking about that whole chain sequence? Was that working for you?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool touch. I didn't really understand the
Actual physics?
the physics of how Jesse was banging his head up against the wall from that angle, but hey,
But
whatever.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I think it was obvious that Jesse has been watching Kill Bill Volume 1 because that is how Gogo almost kills the bride. That's all I'm saying. You get the chain and you pull it by increments. It was like clearly he's been studying his Kill Bill. The sacred text, if you will.
That's actually a good call, Sarah, because that might be where they got the idea from.
It could. It's possible.
It looked a lot like it. Honestly, I'd love to see some behind the scenes stuff because that,
Yeah. Well, go Yabari, everybody. So, sorry, my mind was blown by a Quentin Tarantino reference. I have to readjust. No, I just lost my place.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I thought.
That's what I thought. So basically, now, so head smash. I guess we jumped to Cassidy real quick. I just didn't have a marker for it.
Right, but
So
at this point, though, Jody's presumed dead because he's got his head smashed in a bunch of times, and I think when we cut back to Cassidy,
right,
that's just when Jody's still lying there on the floor.
Right.
And I actually think before we cut to Cassidy, Jesse tells TC to go get
gasoline,
2 gallons of gasoline.
Yeah. So. Well, here's the thing. I got this in between it, but they lay Grandma on the table,
right?
And then she's like, "I'm gonna need a lint roller."
Grandma.
Well, Granny.
Vampire Grandma.
Right. Vampy Gramp.
Right.
Yeah. What do you got, buddy?
Mrs. Rosen.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosen.
That's right.
That's true. That's true.
A quick IMDb search led us to that conclusion.
I just did it now. And Cassie's like, I forget whose idea it was, but let's make it a menage a trois. I think
that's Ikaria says that because he's taken some coolant.
Yeah, that's right.
He's quite coolant.
Thank God we had the closed captioning on.
I know.
Because there was some things I was glad you put that on.
I don't watch anything without the closed captioning anymore. Sorry, folks.
You are old men. Listen to you too.
I like to read while I'm watching a show.
Yeah.
Dag nabbit. So with that, they're like, all right, we'll do a little menage a trois.
I honestly thought it was going to be actual menage a trois. I really did. Was like, the preacher's going to give us this season.
All right, this is where we're going.
And hey, Grandma was fucking down for it.
Yeah, she's
I think
like,
she was thinking that it was going to be an actual menage a trois.
It was like, you guys are going to do the biting later, right?
In her defense, and poor Ed has had to hear me talk about this on episodes of DCTV Report, Joseph Kilgan looked really good this season. I thought Cassidy was he was cleaner, like they scrubbed him.
Healthier.
Yeah. He looked healthy. He looked more vigorous. I don't know. He looked better. So I'm saying, Vamp Graham, I get you. I get you, sis.
I see what you see there, lady. I get it. But maybe it was like, when he was all tied up, and now that he's loose and free, maybe it's not there anymore. It was like when he was at her mercy. I'm getting
Vamp
into.
Graham,
I'm sorry.
I also get you. Yeah, no shame.
I was about to apologize for getting into kink. Okay. Sorry. It's just turning into one of those shows. So let's all feed, basically, because Cassidy's turned the tables here, and Grandma's granny, Miss Rosen, has bites on her neck, and turns out Cassidy had let her down. She had let Cassidy off the thing because she had made some phone calls, but we'll get to that part in a second. In my notes, anyway, it's back to the tombs. Get the pour. Oh, then right. I did jump over that because I just see gas on Jody. He's pouring gas on Jody, and TC gets a pass. I wrote it too fast. I couldn't read it.
Right.
TC basically gets a pass.
All in that scene, though, Jody does get up and he takes a few steps towards Jesse.
Right.
And he says, out of the comic as well.
Sure.
So we'll ring a bell.
Sure.
I'm proud of you, kid.
Proud of you.
And he falls on his face.
Yeah.
And he's dead. So that's the end of Jody, folks.
That's the end of Jody. So it's been nice knowing you.
I would just like to say I really was skeptical of this man as Jody.
Right.
But I think he really did a really, really good job.
Turn me around on it too.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like it's not until like maybe it's not in episode 1, like when he first shows up, that he gets enough screen time to kind of sell me on him.
Right.
But within the next 2 episodes that came, yeah, he was working for me.
Yeah. And hey, I know they're not going to do it, but I would be so down for like a TC and Jody spinoff.
Well, early days.
Yeah, early days, like set in the 80s or 90s. That would just be phenomenal.
I'm down for it.
Well, for you, Ed, you would hate it, but I'd fucking love it.
I think we got the one thing, we got to get into TC's hobbies probably a little bit more in that show. That might be like a straight to cable.
I'll watch.
Okay, fair enough. Sarah, would you watch?
Hell yeah. Yes.
She's like, I like TC.
I actually think, well, I mean, and we're going to talk about this here with the TC stuff that I think we're just about to talk about, but they almost softened him into quirky, funny comic relief.
Yeah.
And I also kind of think I sort of forgot how bad Jody is supposed to be. In the last couple episodes, he's been just the errand boy going to Japan. Right. And yeah, he's been a murderous badass, but they were so much more vile in the comics that this was one of the slight missed opportunities I thought maybe this season had. As much as I enjoyed it, they still weren't as bad as they could have been. Yeah.
And the thing about the comics, too, is like when you meet them, you get them in this run where for a while it's like you don't get a whole lot of them. And when they do, they're being complete evil badasses. Right. So anytime you spend with them, they're just either talking to grandma. You know what I mean? There's no development really of them in any way. And I don't know if the book would have humanized them anymore, but like the show definitely did. And that's what I was concerned with is like by the end of the season when these people got to die, like they're really going to kill these guys? Because these guys are going to have to like really suddenly like do something messed up so that the audience like now definitely hates them. Like, I was expecting like bigger things to kind of happen in a way to kind of like make it okay that we kill this guy we got you to like earlier.
Or at the very least in that last fight to have Jody say, Jesse, I loved your ma, but I let your grandma kill her and I didn't care. It's just something to twist the knife a little bit. And I was a little surprised we didn't get that last permission for Jesse to actually do that.
Yeah.
And this goes to my honestly my overall opinion on the season that I'll get into more later once we finish the breakdown. But I feel like all of that what Sarah's talking about anyways is a victim of them not spending enough time on the backstory of Angelville this season, which was my main problem with the season. That I just feel like they didn't get to let the audience really understand Jesse's motivations and why he's there to kill them. It's
they drop it in
throughout, but it's not as
you don't spend
it's really
time.
You really get hit in the face with it a lot in the comic, and I get that it's kind of the result of the medium change. Like they obviously have more time to do those things in a comic or a novel, but I think they could have spent more time on the backstory of Angelville this season.
Well, I think it started on kind of the wrong note in that Jesse went back under his own power. He did it to save Tulip, but he chose to go back. But in the books, they kidnap him, right? He gets taken back a couple of times, so I could be misremembering one of the
you're
times.
Absolutely right.
But he is taken there against his will, and so that just changes the whole dynamic of his stay at Angelville. We're here, and I understand why they did it. I mean, I'm still kind of mad about the changes they made in season 2, but water under the bridge.
Right.
But yeah, I think it changed the whole why he's there in the first place, and so we didn't quite get the stakes,
exactly.
I guess.
It was almost like a domino effect where they made changes earlier on that they really couldn't.
They echo
get
in other ways.
Yep.
Right.
And I thought they course corrected really well this season. And I think they did a complete 180 on Tulip. I loved her this season. She was so great.
Yeah.
And so they really did fix a lot of things. But there are some things they just wrote themselves into a corner and they had to deal with it. And I think they did a pretty good job. But again, knowing the books, I feel like it could have been better. But I thought what they did was really good.
Yeah. So with that,
anyway.
Yeah. So we then get this kind of cool sequence as Jesse's kind of leaving of like full screen text of their text exchange, which I thought was interesting. It was cute. It was a switch up. And it's the thing that I do like that the show does once in a while, which is kind of come up with something just that reminds you that we're a show that does this, that plays with this. I feel like every now and then, especially in this season, like you went like whole episodes without seeing any kind of interesting graphics or like a play on film and experimenting with the storytelling modes and stuff like that. Where like last week you had some kind of like doodle sketches as they were talking about plans and what's going to happen, so you would kind of get like these ideas. And so I thought this was a nice touch. It was different. Wasn't expecting it for sure. The big thumbs up emoji at the end was nice.
Right.
She was down for it. I'm going to go kill Grandma. Ding. Thumbs up. She approved.
I'd expect nothing less, honestly.
Yeah, to be honest. Anything else would confuse it. So back to Jesse and Grandma. And basically they have this quick exchange where he's like, I kind of know I got to kill you. But so as soon as he comes in, he uses the word on her, basically. And he's like, you know, just say my debt is paid. Your debt is paid. And his little...
and she's obviously shaken up at this point because she doesn't understand that he's gotten Genesis back yet.
Right, right. And now he's just kind of like ransacking in there and just flipping it on her.
Right. And he says, release Tulip as well.
Release Tulip. She does a little hurl into a nice cup that she keeps around for that stuff, I guess. Gross. But she's crazy. Tulip is free now, so Grandma, he basically tells her to, she reveals that she sold Jesse's soul.
Right.
Or used it in the bargain. And that's where I have like a marker for myself, because I had an issue with that where I'm like, that's binding? Even in hell, like somebody else can bind me to like sell my soul, you know?
The lawyer I'm married to objected to that. You cannot enter a contract on behalf of somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I know the rules in hell are weird. And right now, we're in a weird time in, with God out of heaven and everything's, the rules have changed, I guess contractually too. I mean, I guess anything goes.
But contract law is contract law. It is immutable.
It is immutable. Okay. All right. Look, we'll have to, get your man on the show is what it comes down to.
I will send you his hourly rates and we will
ignore them. Oh, no. Okay. And we'll just email him anyway and see what happens.
That's right.
So, so basically she reveals that she's got this contract with Satan for his soul. And basically this makes her... Oh, he makes her burn all the souls, throw them in the fire.
Which was a pretty... in the moment, I thought it was genius of Jesse to think of that. But I was also thinking in the back of my head, would this be taken as a way of him killing her?
Yeah,
Possibly.
I mean, in a way. I mean, it's cutting off her supply. Now that she's old as fuck,
Exactly.
You're on borrowed time for sure.
Right. But hey, we know that that doesn't really matter anyways. Because
well, in the long
he
run,
goes back and does the damn thing.
He does the damn thing anyway.
Right.
Well, I wondered if the souls would be returnable. Could we have found their owners, or were they...
I did think about that a little
deceased?
bit. I'm like, I guess those people are just
SOL. Sorry,
just
people.
sorry. Like, whether they're whole souls or pieces of souls or whatever, but... It'd be better if the whole soul.
Comic Jesse would have sold them bitches. Comic Jesse would have taken those and been like, no, you ain't throwing those out. I'm going to go sell those.
Actually, I think Comic Jesse might have stomped on them and given us a bit of a speech.
Maybe.
just a thought. Sometimes the book was a little didactic.
He would have been in white jeans.
That's true.
Tight white jeans.
Clean. Very crispy clean.
Very crisp.
Very crispy clean white jeans. In the desert, which is always an issue for me. A lot of bleach. All right, so with that, he has to burn the souls, and basically, condemns her, but he can't do it again. He still can't do it, and he gets in the truck.
He's about to leave.
He's going to leave. He's just going to say, fuck it. You know what I mean? And then the music comes on.
Very
the
ironic
song
music.
I meant to look up all the music for the episode because there was a lot of good music in this episode.
Right.
But the song that they played, like actually if you had the captions on, and I noticed it last night in the lyrics, but like it's literally talking about like I couldn't really do what I had to do, and I got in my truck and I was gonna leave.
Right,
Like
exactly.
it's like so on the nose. The
Right.
lyrics. I'm hardly exaggerating, but yeah, he has a moment of clarity where it's like, yeah, I
And little
did.
Jesse comes back.
He's like, I did get everything I want, but I don't.
Does it feel like it?
Doesn't feel like it. I am not satisfied.
Right.
So he goes back in the house, and it's quick cuts of fucking throwing grandma in the chair, tightening the straps, hooking her up, juicing her up. Boop.
Snatches the wig. Don't forget that.
Oh,
Right.
got to make it look crazy as hell in the last moments.
Hey, I mean,
And-
we could ring a bell on that too because that's an image right out of the comic.
That's the whole thing. Like,
Right.
I wanted more of that. Like,
Yeah.
just her to, like, give us a whole episode of her like that. Like, screaming. With the
So
no
is,
wig.
is that what Kevin was talking about, do you think?
In relation to, like, the scene.
Last week, you'd mentioned that there was a scene, or was it the final scene? that
It was
you
the
said
last
gonna be the
frame.
Final scene, yeah.
It was the
That
last
was good
frame.
too. Those were both good, but I
Yeah.
thought that was one that I was just like, oh yeah, straight from the book.
Yeah, I was really hoping for the grandma rocket, where
Me
like somehow
too.
the oxygen tank explodes and she goes to the roof. Just because it's a classic image, it's on the cover of the one issue where it's like, you're looking down at her, and then the house is really small in the perspective, and it's just this trail of fire as it's blasting her up. I
Not
thought
to sound like I have.
because I saw
not to
that
sound like I have-
image like as something that they would do.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
I wanted more fire. I don't mean to sound like I have a problem with that, but like more fire.
There'll always be applause for more fire in general, but in this
Fair
case in
enough.
particular, I felt the same way coming out the end. I know Dom did too because we talked about it at the time. But yeah,
They had to save all that budget for the last scene.
it's, they got the permission to use that house, but not to burn it. I
But
guess.
not to burn it.
Damn it. But the implication is there. The last time you see Jesse, he's got the gas can and he's like by the staircase, and it seems like he's gonna do it because, well, fuck it, he's burning everybody and everything. Poor TC's like running around.
Trying to
Hopping
fuck the
around.
last chicken.
Yeah, trying to get. He's stuffing chickens in suitcases. He's like, clothes. I don't need clothes. I gotta get Henrietta. So with that, yeah. So basically, it's just Jesse and the gasoline. He drains Grandma, which was a great effect. I wonder if it was a combination of the practical. And obviously the digital, bringing her to that. But I was wondering if that was just her under makeup or if that was completely digital or if they made something.
Yeah, I really can't say it.
It's hard to say because it looked so good and so real.
Right.
Like I compliment in that to them for
Right.
pulling that off so well that I can't see where it begins and ends. But yeah, so he's good. So when he does that too, he does this thing where like right before like they cut away, where like he kind of looks up and you get this image of, it's not a sigh, but it's a very visual cue off his face of just like, there's all the pressure off my shoulders going away, I thought it was very exact in the moment.
I think we skipped a part I wanted to mention, which
Sure.
was TC.
Mm-hmm.
The final moments of TC there.
Okay.
I thought,
Please do. I was gonna bring it
How-
up myself.
how did this show make me feel bad for TC? How was TC the one in this episode where I was just like, oh my god, TC, oh baby, aw.
You poor thing.
Yeah, the breakout characters for me this season that I wish stuck around were TC and Satan.
Yeah.
They were both great this season, and
Yeah.
hats off to those two actors because they were great.
So what's TC's last moment then? What's his last scene? What happens?
Sarah, you want to explain it?
This is Jody's body is there. TC is spreading the gasoline, and Jesse lights a cigarette, goes to leave, and says to TC, "Come on." And TC says, "You're not going to kill me?" And Jesse says, "I don't hate you that much." But TC says there's nothing out there for him. He knows Angelville's messed up, but he's got no place else to go. And so Jesse flicks the cigarette, and the living TC goes up with the dead Jody, and it was honestly shocking
Yeah.
and sad.
Yeah.
It was a moment.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a thing too. Like you might even miss it, like because for a second there, like I had him, like I was like, oh, I guess he's just staying in there. You in the back with your hand up.
Well, at least we can go back to the petting zoo now.
It's true. It is. It is. There will be a bulletin posted. Usually the bulletins say like stay away from this guy or be on the lookout. Now it's like the coast is clear. Your children can play in the streets again, or your pets, or whatever.
The sheriff's department's going to have to lay off half their force.
Right. around the clock watching.
Unemployment skyrockets in Angelville.
Oh man. So yeah. So I'm losing my place a little bit here, but
I think we're back at Cassidy.
Back
now.
at Cassidy and the vampires, and then it's Tulip and Cassidy. A quick phone call, if I have it right. I mean, Cassidy has an exchange with the vampires where it's like, guys, get over it. You don't have to be night wraiths. You know, that kind of thing. You can drop this shit. Quick call with Tulip.
Just a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, he wells up like real quick right before he's about to get off the phone, and compliments to him because it looked genuine. But like it was like, oh, I just remembered I love you. Shit. Oh. But luckily Hoover comes, so we don't have to hear that. We could just pretend it didn't happen,
right?
Because it's a deviation of the book. But so Hoover's back, and it was like Hoover, you know, like suddenly he's the cool kid. He's found his people, you know. And Tulip's like Hoover, and he's like, ah, it's all right. He's cool now. He's cool. Like, but like it was like he wasn't like he's okay. It was like no, he's actually cool. Like it's like somehow he found his groove, which is a shame when you know how it goes. But anyway. So with that, you know, Hoover's back. He's cool now, and they're like, well, what happened? He's like, well, you know, like I quit, or you know, it wasn't working out.
He says the benefits weren't great.
Yeah,
so
you know, and so Cass is like, well, you know, I'm about to get crazy high and blast some Nickelback. So, and he's like, yeah, that sounds great, you know, but you gotta be careful, like, because you never know what Cass is gonna be smoking specifically. So just you know, I mean, if you're an anything goes guy, then you're covered. But
meanwhile, I am Admiral Akbaring all over, like, no, it's a trap. Don't do it.
So, what were you feeling that as soon as Hoover came in?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he didn't really have any true reason story-wise to be there. It was like apropos of nothing. So.
I figured if Star let him live, there was a reason for that,
Right.
and so that's where my spidey senses were.
Sure. And thinking it through, if he had quit, like, wouldn't we have seen that? You know, wouldn't that have been relevant? So,
Here's Star doing an exit interview. So you've chosen to leave.
where are you going to go?
He's a great reference guy.
So with that, yeah, I mean, look, you know, if you want anybody calling up on your behalf,
Yeah.
he's a shit. Yeah, so it's let's all get high and blast Nickelback, but it's all set up, and it's a crazy scene where first Hoover gives him an umbrella as a gift, and he's like, oh, what's this for? And then it's like, oh, let's just open it indoors. Luck be damned. And good thing, because I think the whole top half of the house comes off.
Yeah.
But you can't really tell what's going on.
That was a
'cause
strong umbrella.
Yes, as transparent as it kind of was, by the way. But Cassidy's ducking under this umbrella as craziness ensues. And basically, it's all the sunlight's coming in because they took off the top half of the house. Airlifted it, basically. You find out at the end of the sequence, like a helicopter crane lifted it.
Yeah.
But all the sunlight comes in. All you see is like body parts flying around, and Cass's like peripheral, and that's basically the shakedown. You know, it was a raid. You know, the Grail raided.
This is a brilliant way to get rid of all those vampires, though.
That's instantly what I thought. I was like, oh, this is how we wipe the slate clean.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because that was in the back of my head when, you know, they revealed that Cass turned all of those people. Like, oh, fuck. What are we going to do from here?
Yeah, what do we do now? Oh, and I actually thought for a second, oh, Cassie's going to be the one who actually, like, let's do that whole Icarius idea,
Right.
maybe, but do it for real. I thought they were going to, like, maybe make this some new plot thread.
Oh, God. Thank God they didn't.
Thank God they didn't.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, so that kind of goes by kind of quick. It's a thing where that we then jump to nearby where we see the top part of the house actually being dropped into the river, and random humperdoos, a couple of random doos.
I I told Ed this last week on our show. If we get a season 4, I just want a Humperdew in the background once an episode. Just wandering around. They don't have to be involved in the plot. I just want like a Where's Waldo Humperdew every week.
And it doesn't even, you don't even have to pay that actor. Like, you know, to a degree, you can just get stand-ins. It's all about from a distance with that iconic kind of jumpsuit. I liked Ed's reference where he talked about Malcolm in the Middle with the hamster ball. And how, right, that was you, right? How Dewey had a hamster on a show at one point, and then like he's like, no, I got to get rid of this hamster. It's not safe around me, which is a very TC thing to say. But just if we're going to cross over shows. But he loads up the hamster's toy ball, you know, with food and stuff. And he's like, go be free. Right. And then like as the series continues, randomly, now and again, you'll see the ball kind of like rolling through and happening. And that's perfect. That's perfect. Actually, Humperdew and a hamster ball, not a bad idea either. But that's me. Or that might be too campy. So that's where the show would cross the line for me.
I think that was a video you watched once.
It might have. Something like that. So we see the random Humperdews, and Tulip arrives just outside of, on the wrong side of the nick of time, basically. And they just left. We see that there were 2 survivors, and it's Mrs. Rosen.
And Kevin.
And Kev Rosen.
The 2 I would have chosen.
Right. Well, they're the only like 2 out of that group that really have any dialogue throughout the entire show.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Outside, anybody else they killed.
Right.
Like anybody else died off before too much payment could be made. But the Rosens were the chosens. So with that, I didn't want any laughs for that one. And I got more laughs than it should have to the 3 of you. Just saying. So with that, Ed's dead. Rhymes.
He just can't stop rhyming, this fucking guy.
So with that, we gonna go back to hell, because why not?
Before we do that,
yeah. Did I miss something? Go ahead.
Well, I don't necessarily think so, but did you all know what we were gonna get at that point?
When in hell?
No,
I think she means...
when they say the men in white suits took him, they took Cassidy. Did you know what that was leading to?
It didn't.
Because it's in all caps in my notes. Oh, are we getting what I think we're getting?
Oddly enough, like it just didn't click with me in the watch, you know, in the initial watch. But on the rewatch, like, you know, this is a good episode for a rewatch, by the way, because it's got a lot of stuff that's kind of told like from one perspective, and then it's like, oh, if you know where it's actually going. But no, I didn't see it coming at that point. I mean, as we got closer to the very end, I was like, well, what comes next in the books is where my head was starting to go. So I was like, oh.
I was hoping that's where they were going, but, you know, you don't want to get your hopes up in the show.
That's the secret of life, number 7. Don't get your hopes up too high. Okay, so, so we're back in hell. And we start off with this crazy thing with Arseface telling Satan, like, you know, if you could just find God, you'd be okay. Like, basically, like, you know, that Christian kid, bless his Christian heart. You know what I mean? Gotta give it a try. Everyone can be saved. Maybe even Satan himself. You guys used to be friends. You used to get along. Something like that, he says, right?
Yep.
You guys used to be boys. So I thought I was as usual. It's that sweetness of that poor kid, but Satan just whacks him across the side of the head and flings him across the room basically, and that's when the Saint of Killers comes in.
He doesn't like that,
and he's not big on that.
No,
you know he's getting a soft spot for this ass-faced kid, and he's like, you know. Starts this conversation between the 2 of them, basically, but now, you know, I think Angel of Death is the one that said, you know, well, Satan sent the crows on your kid, because she kept on pointing out the crows. So now he's like, yeah, what's up with the crows? They were a good band, the Black Crows, and shame they only had 2 songs. So he's like, nah, man. Actually, you know, I wasn't at the meeting, you know, when these things got discussed, or I was, but it wasn't me. He's like, come on, it was God, you know, and that makes perfect sense to Saint of Killers. So, boom, basically, Satan dead, and that's one from the books.
It is.
That the Santa Killers finds a way to kill Satan, but it happens within the context of the books. It happens as part of his origin story, and actually, when Santa Killers is awoken to do the bidding of the angels and God, as this story goes on, this is a thing that's already happened, because God has given his guns so much power that they were able to do that. So when I think that's how that goes.
They even get him.
Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, hey, this is a full this is a full book spoiler show.
Well,
so.
I mean, we got a guy in this town, in this area. Oh yeah, I like how Ed. It's a total visual, but Ed covered his ears with the headphones on, so he would only hear it louder if he pushed it. Good move.
Can we talk real fast about the bats coming out of the hole in Satan's head? Because that was upsetting.
That was upsetting. I thought it was kind of
gross.
funny. Little bats in the belfry.
Yeah,
But that's what's in his head. I like how when they flew up, they kind of splattered on the camera a little bit.
It was so gross. And I say that with all admiration.
With all
So
admiration
gross.
for the technical skills involved.
Speaking of technical,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but when the blind angel of death wheels the guns over to Satan on the little cart that they were sitting on, they're still wrapped in the U.S. Postal Service packaging.
Yep.
That I forget who was trying to send
I
them
think
somewhere.
Tulip does that, right?
Well, she did it to keep him out of the saint's hands,
Right.
just to, where else better to lose him than the U.S. Postal Service?
Right.
Exactly. That was a nice touch.
Yeah. Because at that moment, I didn't realize. Like, I kind of forgot that. Like when him and Satan are talking, like it's not like he hands over the guns or Satan took them away. I kind of forgotten that they were like lost for a bit. So with that, Satan's dead. Santa Killers and Arseface are gonna go for a walk, like some Legends of Kung Fu. And Hitler's like, well, this seat seems available. I could use a place to sit. Yeah, it's good. It fits. Yeah, it's good fit. Good fit. What's this file? I like this file.
Now, I think the first page that he picks up is the contract for Jesse. So I'm interested to see where that goes into season 4.
I had meant to go on Reddit and like see if anybody had like a zoom in on that or something.
I'm assuming that's if we do get a season 4, by the way, that's where we'll next see Arseface. I mean, excuse me, Hitler. Correct.
Right. If we even continue, because I feel like it's like an open thing where like they don't necessarily have to continue.
If we do see him, you're right.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? I'd prefer not.
I mean, he's going to be really busy running hell. It takes a lot of time, a lot of zhuzhing of personalities.
What would be interesting is like if for a season you didn't see it. You know what I mean? And then like we do see it, and it's like, oh, he's got that shit running tight. Like, you know what I mean? Sure, it's
Rains on time, motherfucker.
Exactly. So Hitler sits in the seat. Angel of Death is like plum cake, and he wants that shit extra flaky, not just regular flaky. You don't want to feel the fury of the Führer. Assface and Santa Claus leave. But one of the things to keep in mind is that this is kind of now, in that moment, there's an exchange that resets Arseface to be after Jesse again, which follows in the book, which places him more in line with where the book would have him around this point, where he's obsessed with Jesse and getting some revenge on Jesse. And so that the next time Jesse sees him, like, this kid wants a piece of me. Sarah,
You're being
thoughts?
very calm here, Bill. In all caps on my notes, you will see Bill fucking called it.
Well, there's been a few of those inside of this particular episode. I'm trying not to make it all about me this week. That's all.
But no, I figured you'd be pleased that's how we get the Arseface reign of revenge.
Yeah.
If that's what we get, that's what you've been saying all along. Wait, the preacher knew about it and he left me down here? I can't do you, Gene. Sorry.
That was perfect. I wanted more. Thank you. But I mean, I'm glad that they reset that. I think in a way, I mean, if we're gonna, stroke my ego a little bit, I did get the thing I wanted, which was like at least Hitler in hell. Yeah. I didn't think that he'd be in a position of power, but it seems like a perfect fit for where the story goes. Because in the comics, they don't really allude to, I don't think so, who takes over. You know what I mean? Pretty much like in Santa Killer's flashbacks, you deal with hell there, and like we don't deal with it again in the books. If anything, maybe Angel of Death might have slid into that slot. And I'll give it a bell, too, because Angel of Death having no eyes is something that they got to, in a way. You know what I mean? Saint takes them out. I mean, in the comic, it's just how that character is.
Right.
But, you know.
And I love Satan. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm sure she had it coming.
We're going to take a sound clip of just her saying, I love Satan, because that was so perfect.
Can that be my introduction moving forward? I like it.
I was going to and just try and slip it in there so people can't even tell if it's like, did she really say that? Or was that the soundboard? All right. So as this episode is winding up now, this not our episode here, but the show that we watched, the preacher is the one that sent me to hell, basically. So this is going to reset all of that. Jesse and Tulip, we go back to, basically. Tulip pulls up, and Jesse's like, family's overrated. They leave.
That's the last we see of them.
Uneventful.
And do you know what I didn't get? I didn't get my epic kiss in front of a burning Angelville. I asked for very little this season. Very little did I ask
budget-wise.
I wanted an epic kiss in front of a burning building.
You got the kiss last week, though.
Well, and actually, they had the epic kiss a couple, like episode 3
like
of
in
the
the
season,
attic.
something like that. Yeah,
in the fucking
it was
attic.
good.
It was
They
good, but
could not have had a candle behind them for that.
some kind of fire in the
just
room.
Needed some kind of fire.
Jesse was lighting a cigarette, so the Zippo was lit and open.
All I wanted. So yeah, I genuinely was a little disappointed that we didn't get that moment, but it's okay. It's a different show. I enjoyed this season. I still have the comic. It still exists.
I mentally snapped like in that moment to the scene of like where they were gonna go, how they were gonna do it, like in this instant thing where it's like I saw Jesse come over to her side of the car, pull her out, give her a kiss, and like we would see the house small in the back, like you know what I mean. And I was like as soon as I saw it in my head, I was like, I'd be fine with that. I'd be cool. I thought that at least they were going to kiss. Like, hey, baby, where you been? And, like, lean over the side, give her a smooch. And be like, slide over, I'm driving. You've been driving for a while, right? Like, be the nice guy. But he's like, no, I'll get in. Keep driving, whatever. Let's go stop at a store, get a Slurpee or something.
Let's go to the Maxi Grinder. I hear they've got
I hear it's under new management. Or it's just no management. It's just open. So they leave. But what we do get is a shift to a new location. And it says it right away on the screen, Masada. And basically, it's Cassidy at the bottom of a well. And he's singing to himself. Something Irish, probably. And, well, anything he sings would sound Irish. And then he looks up, and he sees something up in the well above him, and it's an angel.
It is.
All tethered.
Was it an angel or was it God?
No, it was an angel.
It was an angel. Okay.
Because when he goes to Masada in the book, they have one of the fallen angels.
Right.
The warrior angels, I should say, in a way.
The Seraphi.
Yeah, the Seraphi. Or Seraphi, depending on where you're from. I'm not saying that's right either. But, you know, they have one tied up, and they've kind of gotten some info out of him, and it's a way that the Grail gets backstory.
Right.
On like what's going on with heaven and what's the genesis of Genesis. Is it all about Phil Collins? Is it really did the band really change that much? You know, was Peter Gabriel really that instrumental? If he could leave and the band could, you know, all this stuff.
Did he really see a guy drowning in a lake, and did that really inspire him to
you know
write
what
that
I mean?
song?
I believe it. But with that, we get this last scene. We jump to this last scene of Airstar and Futterman, or Flufferman, Featherstone, for those who know her real name. And he's like, you know, well, this is it. You know, we've done the thing. And then she says, well, it's going to be a challenge now, getting Jesse to be the Messiah, you know, after all this. And he's like, well, I'm done with that guy being the Messiah. You know, I just want revenge now, basically. I want to get Jesse and, you know, torture him forever or something.
Right, but we also did get right before that is when we see Hoover burn. He's wearing the umbrella hat, and Star asks him, are you just wearing that to mock me? And he says, no, sir, I'm a vampire. I thought I told you.
I
And
thought
he's
you
like,
were kidding.
I thought you were kidding. And he just whacks the hat right off of him. And
Rips
he
right
burns.
No!
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same.
Damn it, no!
I kind of feel the same. I kind of feel
That
the
was
same.
not the fire I wanted, for the record.
No. No.
Now, I have a little bit of an interesting theory. I'm not sure if Sarah was on mic when we were
she didn't
speaking
hear
about this before the show. But
the exchange between
Hairstar and Featherstone, the way Star says to Featherstone,
we're going to need another Hoover.
Right. That, to me, meant that we're going to see Hoover again, but it'll just be a clone.
Oh, well, I mean, they have the technology.
Right.
They can build him bigger, faster. Yeah.
Right.
Dom said
That's
this earlier.
interesting.
Dom said this before the show, and my mind was blown.
I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Well, you know what? I was, in a way, maybe not blown, but in a way, I had already consigned the guy to his death, basically. I was like, me and Ed were talking about, like, wow, I feel bad for this guy. This guy had 2 great shows, and one gets canceled, and the other one kills him off. Like, what the fuck is that about? And Dom's like, what are you talking about? Like, he's coming back. And, like, he broke that down, and I was like, oh, dude, I didn't even think that for a second. So, bell for Dom.
Thanks, guys.
For thinking ahead. Or
I
Good
get-
job, little buddy.
I make
Good job, little buddy.
I make one good point a season.
That's all it takes. I think I only made one. But yeah, so there's that opportunity. But it was a big surprise. It was a thing that doesn't follow the book. And we were all consumed with how are they going to make that work, But the question I think now remains with the clone question is, like, they're going to have to will they get DNA pre-vampire stage? Or will they filter it out somehow? Like, you know what I mean?
And
Like-
and will he have the Tom/Brady?
Right. How crazy is the cloning thing going to be? Here's the thing I'm worried about now as I think about it. That'll be the clone. That'll just be the bit. We'll just clone another Hoover. Like, we keep losing them. They keep getting blown up. Like, we can sacrifice you now. Strap a bomb to his chest and send him in. Like,
Right.
Stuff like this where it'll just be like, that's the bit.
But before it gets away from us, I do want to mention the last shot.
Well, chess and checkers, my friend, right? That's kind of what he says. He's like, everybody else is playing chess. I'm ready to just play checkers.
Right.
Which is a spin on the phrasing, kind of like, from most notably used in Denzel Washington, where he's the bad cop. Training Day. I pointed to Ed, where, like, all these motherfuckers playing chess. I'm out playing checkers. I'm playing chess.
Right.
So he flips it, where he's like, I'm just like, let's get just barbaric about it and stop
Right.
being so super strategic.
Right. Which I thought was really nice writing.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Last kind of phrasing.
Definitely.
But the camera pulls back,
Yeah.
and it's just fucking Masada in
Right.
full.
It's a beautiful shot of Masada. It looks exactly like it does in the comic.
And it's beautifully rendered and designed, armed to the fucking T.
Yeah.
Helicopters everywhere.
Yeah.
And it just feels like this thing where, like, in the books where it's like, it positions Star, because Star now ends up right where he is in the books, where it's like, the power structure's changed. He's in charge now. I get to fucking run the show. No fucking restrictions. And I can unleash holy hell and fury on anybody now. And in the book, when that starts to set up, it's like, oh shit. Like, this guy's going to go deep into the well. So, that wraps up the actual episode itself. How do we feel about it? What do we think about some of these paths that were set up for season 4 if we get it?
Sarah?
I feel good about them.
Okay.
I would like to see a season 4. No, I think that they did what we needed to do from the book, which is God tells Tulip, tell Jesse to stop coming after me.
Right.
So I mean, you have that motivation that's going to kick into gear. I am curious how Hitler Eugene the Saint, that stuff would play out. But I think We Gotta Rescue Cass would be a very fine season 4.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we've gotten to a place with the show, if we're going to talk about it in context of the books, where, like, I think they've gotten it down to a rhythm where I think they can take full chapters of the books now. And, like this season, they managed to play within it and add new stuff, but it wasn't a lot. and it was just enough to kind of like serve purpose to the rest of the machinery kind of thing, and it wasn't about like detouring, like outright detouring from the books in a way.
Right.
You know what I mean? That season 2 kind of felt like at times, and obviously season 1, but that they're on the a road here, and you know, it leaves where like this certain chapter in the comics leaves off where they are all still separated, kind of in a way. Jesse and Tulip together and Cassidy on his own. The locations at the time are different, but these storylines all kind of converge in a way. You know, it looks like it's poised for something. But you know, just hoping we get it.
Yeah. I am hopeful for a season 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if it's gonna happen though, guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
The only reason why I say that is because none of the seasons were ever put on Netflix, and I feel like nowadays, networks
Netflix effect?
like FX and AMC, who don't really have that popular of streaming services themselves, benefit greatly from Netflix. I think Breaking Bad really blew up once it hit Netflix.
Yeah.
So
And it's been doing wonders for Better Call Saul, I think, too, right now.
right, but you know, a lot of the network shows.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
So that's really the only negative
Right.
thing that I have to
Counterpoint.
Okay.
AMC gave *Halt and Catch Fire* a final season, and I'm pretty sure I was like 30% of their viewership. Me personally.
And Ed's raising his hand, so I guess
That makes 60.
yeah, that's
So
okay.
the DCTV report accounted for 60% of *Halt and Catch Fire's viewership.
Right.
But they gave it one last season to
Right.
wrap up.
Right.
And I don't know that the names involved in that were quite as big as Seth Rogen.
Right.
Sure.
So, you know, are you in the Seth Rogen business? Do you give Seth Rogen's wacky little comic show one more season to tie up what it needs to tie up? I could see that maybe being the case.
Right.
Maybe I'm just trying to be glass half full because I'd really hate to see it end. I just really hate to see it end.
Comment from the crowd.
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
And I know that I don't know if Amazon, like you can only buy it on Amazon, or if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch like the first 2 seasons. No.
First 2 seasons are on Hulu.
Okay.
All right. So fuck me.
I could buy episodes. You can buy episodes on Amazon because I know I see like little ads for it on Amazon. So, but yeah, I mean, look, like I feel like the same way with the show. Like I feel like I really missed an opportunity by not having it on Netflix. Like I don't even know why. Like any of the shows would just like, you would make an outside deal for a show that like this, which kind of like probably had a chip stacked against it. But I agree with Sarah. I mean, like they seem to kind of really know how to. They're a different kind of network now. They seem to really try to be cultivating the shows and give them a greater chance. Like even their incubation period now is different. I don't know if either of you have heard about this, but they have like an incubation period for like new shows where it's like, you know, they assemble the writing staff and the team and kind of like, it's not just about giving us the pilot. It's about really mapping out like the first 4 or 5 episodes script wise and like not just having like a loose rundown and an outline. But so there's a certain amount of like, they're concerned with how to cultivate a show rather than just like, let's just slide through another one. Okay, that didn't work. Give us another, you know what I mean? They're trying. And I would think, you know, that it's possible that the budget on this is reasonable, it seems, for giving it another season maybe. I mean, it's a 10-episode run, you know, but who knows where that's going to go.
Yeah, but back to my thoughts on the season.
Yeah.
I really loved this season a lot for what it was. I definitely have some little nitpicky
Sure.
problems with it as far as like just its contrast from the comic. But I really just wish that, like I mentioned earlier, that they would have spent more time developing Jesse's relationship with Grandma, TC, and Jody.
Yeah.
That's really my only big complaint from the season, aside from Hitler now being in charge. And hell, I'm just gonna like forget that even happened. But yeah, I mean that's really the only negative that I have to take away from the season. And the way they ended it was satisfying to me. So I'll give them the pass on it.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't have to go down the exact way that it went down in the
comic. And that's like a lesson I think this season kind of like it did it in a better way so that it didn't ever feel like I had to swallow like some uncomfortable or awkwardy kind of thing. Like, granted, running to Osaka, like, you know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, I think it's like, oh, let's just put it in Japan. Like, it could have been stateside. Like, it didn't have to be. You know what I mean?
I think that killed a little of the Angelville momentum for me. I felt like Angelville was a little anticlimactic here in the last episode, and I feel like having Tulip there trying to help Jesse and failing to break free from Grandma and Jody and TC might have upped the stakes and made that last, the last boss battle a little bit better.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Or more resonant. And so I think Japan just kind of took the wind out of the sails there a little bit. Enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. If it was a 13 episode season,
right,
and we could have had 3 more episodes back at Angelville to build up to that, it would have been a little stronger for me. But again, I so enjoyed this season. It was so entertaining. I feel like a jerk complaining because they really gave us great TV.
Yeah, so. I absolutely agree.
So, let's ask the guy in the room, I guess, if he has any questions. I guess maybe I'll turn his mic up a little bit.
I was going to suggest that, yeah.
Like, I'll turn it up a little bit.
No, not really.
No, you're good?
I don't even think that picked anything up at all.
No, okay. Try it now.
Not really.
No, you're good?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay, I'll turn it back down then.
Does he want to hear how the whole comic ends? Does he want to hear the...
Not really.
No, it's okay. You don't have to spoil it. Well, you did have one question because you were nice enough, Ed, to reply to the tweet I put out earlier, which I think, if I remember correctly, was about Hoover, or Hoover-ish related. Will we start a petition to bring Malcolm Barrett back to Preacher? That you're going to miss him dearly, and we do too if they don't run with Dom's clone theory.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility, but I don't know how strong of one it is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's a possible out. I mean, they've probably already considered that when I did it. It's like, well, we could find a way out for it.
Right.
Even if we only clone him once and then break the clone machine, just to give us an out on this bit. Right. Any last words? Any last thoughts? Anybody?
Sarah, our guest.
It was good stuff.
It was good stuff.
I liked it.
I liked it. I liked it too. Again, not to bemoan the issue, but yeah, I agree that overall good stuff. And kind of agree with Sarah that if you had gotten Tulip to the house, maybe at the beginning of the episode.
This damn kiss, man.
Yeah, it was just about, just having that moment.
Well, and I get all 3 of them were on their journeys. I mean, I do understand the idea of wrapping up their own personal battles that they had this season, and but
and it follows the book. In an interview Sam Catlin gives on the website for this week's episode, he kind of mentions that, it follows the book in that, they're all kind of doing their separate things, and in the last moments it gets truly separated in that, they're each on a separate thing. So, thematically it's all there, but, I'll be here next season, I guess, if they do another one.
Yeah.
I guess I'll be alone. I don't know.
no, that's good.
No, I will be here, and I am excited for season 4.
Yeah.
I really hope that they do it.
Yeah, I hope that, I really hope that the show finds some new viewers, and it is a show that I constantly in the hashtags I'm seeing people like discovering it or they're trying to catch up, and I feel like it could, if they gave it a pass for another season, they could start to see a good swell of the audience numbers reflected. I think it's out in enough places now where people are catching it and catching a good chunk, not just the season 1,
right?
And now with this season they'll have a good amount to kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, when this comes back, I'm going to be looking for it. I think it's that potential is there. Whether or not it's the Netflix effect, or just a cumulative exposure.
This might just be the millennial in me, but I think. I'm a strong believer in the Netflix effect.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it matters a lot. And I do understand that it's on Hulu, but I don't really think Hulu scratches the surface as far as Netflix goes in popularity.
Obviously not, the raw numbers, but I think it could show the trend. Like, that's what I'm hopeful for, that they'll see that there's a trend there, though.
Right.
Like, so I think
I just know all of my idiot friends. That's what they do.
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah,
just they don't watch TV shows
Anymore,
that aren't on Netflix.
Right.
So
they don't bother.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'll just wait for it.
Right.
It's all that, and it's like, well, someone's got to watch it live.
Right.
So that it gets enough audience to
Exactly.
stick around for longer than a season.
Well, and I will say I had a conversation on Twitter last night with a guy in the hashtag who was excited because he was going to pick up the comics after this, that he liked the show. And I was just like, oh, you're going to like it because it's in the spirit and you're going to see some things that you recognize. There's going to be some surprises for you, so hopefully it also is driving people to the books.
Right.
And then maybe they become evangelists for the show and the books. And so it'd be nice.
Yeah, we used to push that angle a lot more. You know what I mean? And like every episode, that was the mantra here.
Yeah.
It was like, go get the books. Go get the books.
Right.
You should already have the books. You know what I mean? So if anybody hasn't, really, it's the break. It's the summer break while you wait for the next season. That was always our push. Read it in the off season if you haven't. Reread it in the off season if you haven't.
Ed?
If you know somebody who's got the books, you can always borrow them. He's thinking about it.
I think he's nervous.
Well, you know what? When the show is officially canceled, then I'll give you the books, I guess.
I don't think he's down for that either.
No, he's not. He's not. Well, his mic's on.
I've tried a little bit. I don't see him taking it.
I have a lot of stuff I have to read.
The pile is getting bigger.
There are a lot of shows I gotta watch.
That's true.
I gotta show you. I'm backlogged like 110 episodes of the TV
With that
shows
TV
I
show
watch.
app that you got, right? Yeah. Well, between that, you shouldn't have that.
Excuses.
That keeps you from forgetting the shows that part of you wants to forget. Like, you know how like some of those shows pile up more than others, but then other shows you're like, oh, new episode, watch it now. It's like, when you buy comics and you're like, oh, there are 3 books in here, like I want to read right now. The rest of them, year and a half, like when I get to it. And that's how the comic book collection gets out of control.
Yep.
But I do want to say thank you as we wrap up here to Sara Netzley.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Ed, thank you too, I guess.
Aww.
Yeah, well, don't let it get to your heart or your head, okay? Because it's just perfunctory, or however you say that word. Perfunctory.
Perfunctory? You got it right.
I like the
first
funk
time.
part. I like the funk part. I can always dig on some funk. But with that, as I get the music warmed up, I do want to remind people that as this show comes to a close, you can still check out Ed and Sara every week on the DCTV Report. They're recapping 173 TV shows every week. A week. And news for those same damn shows. Right. Basically, it's a 3-day podcast. Or one day it will grow to that size. So check them out.
Please do.
Available wherever you get podcasts. Check out the Wicked Theory podcast. You can check out me and Ed over there. Sara, thank you once again for Skyping in with us, hanging out, and being a silly goose with us. And just being patient and waiting out the whole season for me to get you on the show.
Oh, I knew you'd call.
Oh, you knew I was going to call.
You're going to be on the DCTV Report this week.
That's right.
So
let's put that
if people
out.
can't get enough of Bill, we're going to have him over on our show.
Thanks. Thanks for plugging that, because I would have forgot.
I assume Ed is going to mute his mic just ruthlessly.
Oh.
Make up for this.
It's our first guest.
See that?
Uh-oh.
It's going to be terrible.
You're opening the floodgates.
People listen to that just to see how many times I curse.
Yes.
Ed's got it in his head, according to last week's DCTV report, that I curse a lot, and I don't even know it. Fuck you, Ed.
See, right there.
No, I knew it that time. That time I knew it, though. All right, folks. So thanks for listening, and we'll be doing this until the end of the show or until the end of the world. Thank you for listening.
The Wicked Theory podcast is heard live every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern until whenever. Just go to mixler.com/wicked-theory. Mixler is MIXLR. Sign up to join the chat. Then click the follow button to get reminders whenever the show goes live. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, wherever good podcasts are given away for free, and at wickedtheory.com. You can support the show at patreon.com/wickedtheory. There you can get the after show if you miss it live. God forbid. Plus other exclusive episodes. As always, send your emails to podcast@wickedtheory.com.